All right, here's the fellow who thinks the Lowe's Motor Speedway is his house.
Juked her a little off turn 4 coming to get the green.
Jimmie Johnson in the Lowe's Chevrolet.
And, you know, even though he was fast in practice, Darrell, we watched him a couple of times. He had his hands full with his 48 car.
It's right on the edge, man. I mean, that's what it takes to go fast. You want the car to turn. You keep hearing the guys wanting them to turn. The only way you can get that done is put a big old right rear spring in there, and then you're riding on ice, baby.
He has 2 poles here and 4 second row starts.
Mike, he slowed down so much. He is so free, I think, that he had to really back it off.
He's going to be right there with his teammate Jeff Gordon. It looks like he's 15th quickest.
I think it was just way.
Let's see.
He's 15th, and Jeff Gordon's 16th now. Both of them run right there in the mid-60s.
And you can just see that back end is just hanging out ever so slightly.
1/1000th difference between their times right now. Now, Jimmie's going to go ahead and run this second lap.
I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but we'll see. Much better in this end of the speedway.
I believe he's going to improve, Darrell. He got off at turn 4 pretty good. In fact, he looks like he may even pop up into the top 10. This would be the first car to pick up, and he'll pick up about a 10th all the way to 9th quickest. Thing must have tightened up a little bit for him on lap 2.
Coming up, Bobby Labonte, Tony Stewart, and Mike Bliss. Jeff Gordon in the DuPont Chevrolet. He has 2 career poles here, 1996 and 2000. Or excuse me, those are his 2 wins. He has 4 poles and 8 front row starts coming in here. But his last 4 finishes here, not memorable. Not a top 25 amongst them.
His first lap's not going to be all that memorable either. He just drove down into turn 1 again. Way too hard, looked to me like, and the car went up the hill. Now he's made a lot of good time up down here in turn 3 and 4. See where that puts him.
Now with the Impala, which is Chevy's version of the car tomorrow, he has started no worse than 3rd in the 3 races so far.
Can't seem to get the car at the bottom down there in 1 and 2. Now this is a much better lap.
That was a pretty good first lap, though, Darrell. 21.64. And of course, we sat down with Jeff last week, and he told us he has to make himself say, "This is the Impala. I can't overdrive it." 21.38. He beats Allmendinger by well over 2 tenths.
There's a 30. You're in a 21.64, 21.38. Unbelievable.
That's what we're looking for.
That thing was awesome, guys. You guys are blowing me away. I don't know what you're doing.
Folks, I think, was it last year Robbie Gordon took his intake manifold, or was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. I mean, every time we come down, there's such a broad interpretation of what's legal and what's not. Sometimes they take them because they don't look right. So don't paint the ugliest picture till we know all the facts.
Bowyer is one of 3 entries, official entries from Richard Childress Racing, as you've already heard. Childress does support some other teams with engines and technology.
You know, I want to go back to Jeff Green's qualifying run a while ago. I know you said, Darrell, that they may be happy. What I base that off of is they slowed down 2.5 tenths from what they ran in practice. You know, when you come here to qualify, you at least want to back up what you practice. You don't want to slow down. And like Matt Kenseth said about Robbie Reiser, the hope, you pick up 3 or 4 tenths.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in no way was I indicating that he might be happy with that lap, because I'm pretty sure he probably isn't. I just when you said that, it made me remember that story.
Clint Bowyer, a past champion in NASCAR's Midwest Series, and his best finish at this track in 2 starts is 6th.
That was in the Daytona 500 1 year ago.
Oh, yeah, he had a heck of a run down here last year.
He has a neat street rod pickup. It didn't have a great paint job. In fact, it had a distressed paint job with primer showing through, so they made it look worse. And it looks really cool. There's not a glossy spot on it.
It's not as cool as his Mercury, though, with the flamethrowers out the back.
Right.
You see that one?
Up in the top 4.
I like the way this piece is looking. It's good, solid. Not pushing. He's backing the gas pretty quick. Straight up off the corner.
First lap, 22.10.
He's outside pole for the Busch race, but as you've talked, these cars drive so differently.
I think
can't really put one lap up against the other, can you?
I think that's a difficult thing. These guys get out of those Busch cars, and that first lap in this car has got to be like, whoa, what is this?
Well, this lap looks pretty good.
The car looks fast. I mean, and that first lap wasn't all that impressive, but it looks fast.
21.73. That puts him 3rd quickest right now. In fact, He and David Reagan are tied.
Only one top 10 start here in Cup, though.
Yeah, he has those 6 low starts, and other than that one finish in NEXTEL Cup you talked about, the other 5 races he finished 25th or worse. So this has not been a good racetrack for him.
3 of those due to crashes.
Well, you know what I said the other night, you watch him in that final 20-lap segment because it's either going to be records or checkers, and that was the kind of race that was. And I meant that not necessarily, I wouldn't mean to be derogatory. That's just kind of the way that race was going to unfold, and he was going to go for it.
It was likely to happen, and
he was a good guy to keep an eye on.
Good
one
lap,
way or
though.
another.
Good lap. 4th quickest for Kyle right now to 29.55.
well, that should end up top 15 or so.
I would think so.
I don't know. This track's got to pick up some speed, guys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're in the mid, just low 29s here. I thought, well, surely we'd be in the mid 28s before the night was over with.
Bit freer than I would have liked.
Let's take a look as he gets down into turn 1. Good entry right down on the ripple strips. Didn't touch him. Good exit. And he's in the green in the middle of 1 and 2 right now, but he's losing a little bit off of turn 2. Coming down the back straightaway, but Andy still staying pretty good, starting to taper off a little, but he's tracking 7th right now.
He got down in turn 1 really good and strong, but coming off turn 2, looked like he lost just a little bit of momentum. We got sun really kind of on the 1 and 2 side of the racetrack now, as clouds are kind of moving around.
He won the pole here in 2002. He won the race in 2005 from 22nd starting spot. So wherever he starts, he's going to be a factor. But what can he do here in qualifying?
Makes you feel good.
Yeah, until somebody goes out right behind you.
That's right.
You know, a lot of places.
And it could be this guy right here.
It could be. I mean, a lot of places we go to, the early draw hurts you really bad, and then, in some places it doesn't hurt you at all. So it just depends. I mean, I think the later we start qualifying, the early draw hurts you worse. And today we started at 3:15, so it's not as bad as if we started at 5 o'clock or something.
Well, right now, Kurt Busch has got almost an identical lap going that Casey Mears just did. I mean, you see our lap tracker green. It's a little bit better off of turn 4, so it's tracking first right now, just a little bit faster. Yeah, he runs a 31.22. Mears is 31.33, so a little bit faster in the first lap.
Kurt Busch ran a 30.99 in practice, so he was quicker in practice, just like Mears was. Remember, Kurt Busch finished 29th last week at Dover, running 4th with a few laps to go, and had that right front tire issue, smacked the wall. And that cost him a 29th place finish. And despite that, as you heard out on the Best Week Day at the top of the show, he moved up a spot to 11th in the chase.
Right here, it looks like you get all the goodie off those tires in that first lap. So he's not able to pick it up on the second.
Yeah, after watching this, I can already tell you I'm probably going to run 1 lap.
Wicked tight.
Well, Jeff says he's way too tight right there.
And that's the thing is, if you listen to some guys versus others, one person might say the total opposite of the other. So sometimes it's easier to go just off your teammates, especially when your setups are really close to each other. It's a little bit easier to go off your teammates than other cars.
It looks like if you don't get it on that first lap, you might as well just pull in. They're wasting gas on that second lap.
It does look like that, but it seems, a lot of people run their second lap here. Streamate didn't. He's the only one that hasn't. He tried to and got wrecked. So I don't see where the second lap is going to really help anybody.
He's had a lot of things happen in his life, that's for sure. But one thing that's going to happen right now, he's going to probably have to hold his breath for 2 laps right now, Andy, because he's going to have to stand on the throttle. The sun's going down, the track's cooling off. He's getting ready to run a qualifying lap that's probably going to make him hold his breath, that's for sure.
Boy, that car right there looks like it's awful shaky going through that corner.
And boy, in qualifying, you've got to run these corners so hard, it's unreal. You're running over 200 miles an hour going in the corners. About 210 miles an hour to be exact, Jerry.
Guys, they practiced in the middle of the afternoon here, and it was fairly much warmer, and it's getting cooler now. How does that affect what happens with the cars here in qualifying?
Well, generally the cars tighten up more. You just get overall grip, more grip total. Now, it's really not going to change the balance front to rear. Andy, your experience has probably been they just run faster, I would say.
They just run faster, and they don't, these guys have a lot of experience with this kind of qualifying. They do this a lot. They practice during the day, and they qualify at night. So they really know how to handle this as far as car setup. But you see this racetrack's gotten so much more bumpy. I mean, it's always been fairly bumpy, but it seems like it gets more and more so every time we come here.
Carl Edwards, first time by 29.23. That is much quicker than he ran in practice. And now the second lap even quicker than that, a 29.20 at 29.207. and that's a very good second lap, 189.818 miles per hour, much faster than what he ran in practice.
He won the last time we were at a road course with the NEXTEL Cup cars back at Watkins Glen last August.
Was third here back in 2003. Started third here a year ago, but finished 24th. Takes the green flag.
You know, back to Bill Elliott, it appears that our two past champions that are here that would have been eligible for the past championship provisional, it looks like those two guys are going to qualify on time, Bill Elliott and Terry Labonte possibly.
A couple of these guys are losing some time there in turn 2 for whatever reason. Some guys are having a hard time getting through there. Cars are getting sideways on them.
That's okay to come over the...
Yeah, that curve there. Actually, your lap would be slower if you avoided that curve, if you stayed on the inside of it. So just hit it. There's a lot of asphalt out there, and you know, it doesn't really hurt your momentum at all.
Kevin was 9th quickest in practice. Looking to back that up here, possibly in the top 10.
Robbie Gordon on the provisional pole.
Car looks really good through the S's.
Got through 10 good, too.
And if you got to turn to the left, you have to turn to the left just that little bit.
And that hurt him a little bit on the exit of turn 11.
Checkered flag for Kevin Harvick. Falls into the 8th spot.
North Carolina, we all have to make this payment every month. And I need Schrader to give me a little money, so I'm glad he's in this race.
Glad you don't have an agenda here, Rusty.
Well, I got a little bit of agenda with him.
Oh, this one car wiggled big time getting down in the corner right there. Martin Truex is going for it right here. That little bobble cost him quite a bit, too. We can see he was in the green until he bobbled in turn 2.
Well, the good news is he's locked into the field and by virtue of owner's points, but he would like to be able to get this car up toward the front by virtue of speed.
We've been seeing all these Ganassi guys standing on the wall, and this is one of the cars they were worried about.
You know, when you see the corners getting overcast, you know the sun's off them, you know the track's getting cooler as a driver, you want to drive that baby down in there and get all you can, and you can tell that's what he did in turn 1 and it got loose on him.
Takes the white flag, comes by, and we'll see what as it goes underneath the flag of Rick Monroe. And 33rd quickest for Martin Truex Jr., 49.797. And seconds, that'll put him in at 33rd overall.
Drivers carrying special colors this weekend on Memorial Weekend.
Denny Hamlin is the car on the track. The FedEx Chevy saluting the U.S. Marines.
Here's another guy, Mike, that wasn't terribly happy over here last week. Struggled with his car during the All-Star race.
He looks like he's on a pretty good run right here. He looks like he may be pole material temporarily. Yeah. 29.31 beats Mark Martin by over a tenth of a second.
Now, they've done a lot of work on this car since last week in the front suspension area.
But as we've often said here, this track is so weather sensitive. As the sun goes down, business ought to pick up.
Speeds will pick up. And I think that you get a better look at the car here than we did at Martinsville and Bristol. Those are little small racetracks. And I don't know, it's something about a little racetrack. Any race car looks kind of cool going around those little racetracks. Here you get a whole different view of this car. You get to see the whole car from front to back. And I tell you, when these things go by, they're funny looking.
It's the biggest track they've been on. The first mile track test for the car of tomorrow as Ryan Newman comes out to make his qualifying run.
You know, the good thing, Darrell, is turn 1 and 2 is almost already completely in shade. Of course, that means it's cool and it's getting some grip. I think this will be a pretty good gauge of what the track has in it. Ryan was one of the faster cars. Most of the practice ended up 6th quickest.
Not this lap. Well, it might be, but he messed up that turn, I can tell you.
3 handfuls of steering
wheel there. Lost a lot of time down there.
Newman's the track record holder. Had 3 consecutive poles here. 2002, 3, and 4.
Now that's a 27.74 on lap 1. He ran a 27.63 in practice. We've been seeing the first 2 cars did pick up on lap 2.
he kind of what he did that first lap, he went into 3 kind of low, and the car slid up the hill, and when he tried to bring it back down, it got a little bit snappy loose. This was a smoother lap.
And the stopwatch reflects it.
51. So Newman is quickest, then Ward Burton and Mike Bliss.
Makes a driver feel good when you hear the crew chief say that.
Yeah, little cheerleading never hurts.
Now here's Greg Biffle. And you were talking about guys last week that had problems. They had an oil cooler issue last week that they ended up, sitting on pit roads for a number of laps they had to fix.
And had a great run going in the early part of that race. Considering especially what they looked like in practice on Saturday.
That's right. Frustrating year for the Biff. 20th in the standings right now. Was 10th a year ago at this point. 22nd in the practice here today.
Had a good run here a year ago. He actually ended up finishing 4th.
He's only top 10 in his 4 races here. So Larry, how close on 2 stops? 10 laps?
Here's what I've been figuring. I had my calculator out again, by the way. This is a 110 lap race.
Wow.
In the past, with 22 gallons of fuel, you could run about 36 to 37 laps. So you could easily do it on 2 stops, which is what you want to do. Now we have the 19-gallon cell, and what you can figure on laps to the gallon here is about a lap and a half to the gallon. So now you can run about 33 laps. You do the math, they're going to be somewhere between 8 and 10 laps shy of doing it on 2 stops, and I think that's going to make this race very interesting on Sunday.
Certainly will. Biffle's using all the track.
Yeah, Greg's doing a good job. I mean, you can see he's hustling the car, but he's not out of control. You know what I mean? He's not losing time by doing it.
Through turn 11. It's back in the gas hard. Trying to crack that top 10.
It's going to be a good lap for him.
10?
Will.
Yep.
We've got a lot of Fords up there. We actually have 6 Fords in the top 10 right now.
Including the top 3.
And so is people at Team Red Bull. I feel like we got a really good car for here. I'm excited about the race.
It's one of those weekends where things have gone awfully well for Brian. Top 3 in practice this morning and currently 4th on the speed chart.
Marty, Brian Vickers has been the highest finishing Toyota driver in 6 races this year, including the last 3 events. Casey Mears, first-time winner at the Coca-Cola 600 at Lowe's Motor Speedway a couple weeks ago in the 25 car.
You just mentioned something about Brian Vickers. He's been the top finishing Toyota in 6 races. That's all 6 of his starts. That's how many races he has started this year.
So what you're trying to tell us, Larry Mack, is when he gets into the race, you better watch him.
Things are good.
Yeah, it's a little bit too loose here.
Yeah, he was definitely a little bit too loose. When you're watching him come to take the green, guys, he was a little bit loose, but it was good enough to make him 3rd quick so far.
And I think with everything that went on at Pocono last week, Darian Grubb, Casey Mears, the 25 car, they actually had the same strategy as Steve Letarte and Jeff Gordon. They stayed out on that caution, did not pit at lap 65, hit pit road the same time Jeff Gordon did about 17 laps later. They get them another top 5 with that strategy.
Coming up, Juan Pablo Montoya, David Rudiman, and Reed Sorensen here in Michigan.
But then the other teams picked up speed, obviously, but I know they had to start practice encouraged.
Yep. Well, is there any question who just went out? You could hear the roar of the crowd.
Now, here's a guy that's been out there, for a couple hours in a Busch car to see how that affects Dale Jr.'s run here.
And he was decent in practice. He was 13th quickest in this Budweiser car.
Well, he sent it in hard like Schrader, but it fell off coming off too.
And I think that's part of that Busch thing. Those cars, you drive them in to turn a little bit harder, a little less horsepower.
So Dale Jr.'s first lap, 29th quickest. See if he can rebound here.
See his crew chief, Tony Uri Jr.
Well, you can just hear that thing spin the wheels.
Got to say hi to his sister, too. She's having some surgery, I guess, and Kelly, just say hi to you, and we're praying for you.
This car really shot up the racetrack in 3 and 4 on that lap, too, and it really paid the price on the stopwatch.
So Junior is 29th. And this brings out Mark Martin. Qualified 3rd fastest here in 1992. making his 44th Cup start. Finished 12th here last year and led 19 laps.
And Mike Mark, 617 consecutive NEXTEL Cup starts.
And our tracker, our telemetry, right now unfortunately we are not receiving the signal from NASCAR, so we can't bring that to you right at the moment.
Mark was 29th quickest in practice yesterday.
Now this was the team that Joe Nemechek drove for last season. And Ginn Racing elected to move Joe into the number 13 car, partly because of his success at qualifying. They felt Joe would do just fine in a car that didn't have the backup of being in the top 35. But also the U.S. Army looking toward driver Regan Smith, who will split this schedule with Mark Martin in the Army car. And so that's how they'll proceed for 2007.
Mike, this will be the 2074th pole position run in NASCAR. And there have been 201 former pole winners in the history of NASCAR. So a lot of poles, a lot of runs, but they've been dominated by quite a few guys too. I mean, Richard Petty has 126, Pearson had 111, Cale had 70, I had 59, Bobby Allison had 58, Gordon's got 56, Bill Elliott had 55. So about a third of those 2,000 poles have been won by about 6 guys. And it's incredible the number of people have 1 and 2.
And I think Mark Martin in this Army car, he may be feeling the effect of the little bit of weather changes going on here. Only 31st quickest in this Army car. And again, this has Hendrick power under the hood.
But this car is locked into the Daytona 500 field based on last year's owner points, so he will be racing next Sunday. Now the internet rumors that team was shutting down were greatly exaggerated. Bill Davis put all that to rest this week.
Well, let's see what Mark can do.
Mark Smith, Regan Martin, they're sharing the ride this year, and Mark Martin steps out of the point lead, and Regan Smith is in the car as planned for Bristol.
He's on a pretty good run right now.
I tell you, the car looked good. It's good in practice too.
Yes, sir. Second quickest at a 15:41. And Mike, one of the most frequently asked questions over the last 3 or 4 weeks, what does this do for this car as far as possibilities of a chase? I got word yesterday from NASCAR that we will have obviously the top 10 drivers in the chase for the NEXTEL Cup, but the top 12 owners will be in it as well.
So the 01 could well be in the owners' chase for that time.
Like you would at, say, Kansas City. And he's waiting on a caution, which he gets right here. This is a big break.
Bowyer beneath the hood of the 01. Eric Almirola bailing out in a hurry. Remember,
he's out. He's out.
he was involved in that chain reaction crash earlier in the afternoon down in turns 1 and 2, and now he comes out of the U.S. Army Chevy.
It's got something crazy going on right here. It's just like a fuel fire or maybe an oil fire under the hood. This makes me think it's fuel because it's coming out of the carburetor intake opening there.
It was probably related to the crash you had earlier. See, the front of that car all caved in. It might have jolted.
It could be the oil cooler. It actually could be an oil fire under the hood, and then it makes its way out that open.
Jamie McMurray had his best finish of the season last week, 5th at Texas. He has finished 15th or better the last 5 races and made a big climb from 36th after California to 10th in points right now.
I think he had a 5.5 last Sunday because he only beat Greg Biffle to the line by about a half an inch. They were coming off turn 4 and they were slicing and dicing.
Look at this lap.
Sounded pretty good. He had to work the throttle a little bit there in the middle of the corner.
He was 9th quickest in practice, 27:36, and that's lap 1.
What in the world?
Tell you, this guy, this crowd right here is just they're on it right now, Larry.
Might have got against the wall there, Darrell.
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay.
He just got close. You get close. Get real close off 2 over there. Looks like he hit it every time you come out there. You think you're going to hit it, matter of fact.
He had to play with that throttle quite a bit off turn 4. Let's see what he does here. How about 27:15? He picks up 2/10. Right now, he's on the pole by 3/10 of a second.
You would call that a Crown Royal moment.
I'd say so.
But I think
That
that's
was
what
really
this.
good.
I would say so.
I think that's what this car tomorrow can do, though. You get it right, you're going to stink up the show, as I like to say.
I would say so.
Darkness beginning to descend on Lowe's Motor Speedway as Bobby Labonte jumps up to third in the chocolate checks Dodge.
Car looked really, really good, guys. I mean, he was a little soft off turn 2, but he nailed 3 and 4. He got through there better probably than anybody I've seen all night.
Yeah, he was 11th quickest in practice, and right now that puts 3 Dodges up in the top 4. Not going to improve on this one. He's going to go ahead and run this second lap.
Now, that's going to be a hard car to find on the racetrack Sunday, because what color is it? I guess it depends on what direction you're looking at it. It's
kind of looks like the 88 car.
It's the whole box of Crayolas on that one.
It's a very busy paint.
Seem to be working really good for him, and tough to say. You're going to have the choke packer might play a role in whether we get the pole today, but either way, I'm just proud that we're going to be able to be here and be competitive.
He's got 4 poles so far. We'll see if it's going to be number 5 today, Mike.
Kasey Kahne on track. He needs to race his way into the top 35, and he's on shot for the pole. Takes it away from Tony Stewart.
By 2/100ths of a second. You saw the graph a while ago. This is one of the 2 of the Evernham cars that's in that danger zone out of the top 35 right now. Pretty good second lap, 15:36. And like Robbie Reiser with Matt Kenseth, Kenny Francis is back this week with Kasey Kahne after a 4-week suspension, 4-race suspension.
And that's going to make the difference.
You better believe it.
That guy's funny. I like that.
He is.
That's why I don't ride horses, because you are not in control.
Folks, he'll be here all week long. Comedian Carl Edwards here joining us in the pit studio. Juan Pablo Montoya out of Bogota, Colombia. Formula One ace and former Indy 500 winner, now leading in the Rookie of the Year standings by 19 points over David Reagan. Had that great top 5 finish. You heard him talk to Jimmie a little earlier. Let's see what Juan Pablo can do here in the Ganassi Sabatos Dodge.
One thing I saw through that corner is he didn't even look for the bottom. He was 3 lanes up going in the corner. He never tried to get to the bottom.
In his interview, he said he can't wait to go to the top, I think, to see how fast it's going to go. I think he's one of those guys that just enjoys running the top around this place.
You know, last time he raced here, he finished 5th. Yeah. And he was right on the top of the racetrack almost the entire race. And that's what amazed me, how close he could run. And it didn't intimidate him at all.
Yep, you got to be about half crazy to do
there
that.
He goes to the top. I don't think he meant to go there that time.
10th quick, 29-22. Looks like he's going to shut it down.
That's fine. I think he's going to be a guy like Truex. You know, he's right there with Martin Truex. They're going to run really well during the race. I'm not sure that there's not some thing going on with air pressures, or there's some guys that are running some lightning quick laps, but there are guys back there like Montoya and Truex that are going to run well in the race, I think.
Well, I would hope if he's down there with my people, maybe somewhere down there they can buy a Larry Mack bobblehead, maybe, if that's my people.
And where would they get that bobblehead?
DWstore.com.
J.J. Yaley, another second-generation driver. He and his dad raced sprint cars together for quite a few years before he moved up to the NASCAR Busch Series and the NEXTEL Cup. This is another Joe Gibbs racing entry. The Interstate Batteries Chevy, car that Dale Jarrett and then Bobby Labonte made famous.
JJ was just okay yesterday, about mid-pack. His first lap of 49.43. So if he picks up those 6 or 7 tenths like everyone's been picking up, he's going to end up somewhere. Should be in the top 10 right now, maybe about a 48.80, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And that would mirror the time by his teammate, Denny Hamlin.
Thing looks like it's Poe going on him a little bit, though.
That's something we've not talked about. Watching this racetrack on television, it maybe looks smooth, but this place is all but smooth. It has dips all the way, especially through the corners.
Yep. 1 and 2 is worse than 3 and 4.
Yaley is the 17th driver on the clock. Rookie David Reagan is fastest. Past pole winner and race winner Jeff Gordon. Second quickest, and J.J. Yaley times in 7th.
We're just past halfway this qualifying session. We talked about this at the top of the show. Right now the pole is a 15:31. A 15:65 will not race on Sunday.
Yeah, a 65 not a great time, but it's certainly compared to everybody else, it's not a bad
3 tenths off the pole right now.
That's right.
Reed Sorensen.
And that's the box you're in when you're not in the top 35. Man, it doesn't take but just a little to get you in. Doesn't take but a little to knock you out.
Now the Target Dodge looking to make Reed's 3rd start at Bristol.
15:66 on lap 1. He runs the exact same lap down to the thousandths on lap 2. Had a great run in Atlanta, got his first top 10 finish of the year. Finished 10th.
These cars are kind of like the first time you ever went skiing. You know, you just hope you can get up. When you finally get up, you say, oh, gee, what am I going to do now? How'd I get down?
Trace, I'll tell you in a moment. And, of course, our coverage here in Atlanta at 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC on Sunday. And, by the way, happy hour practice at Memphis. Stephen Wallace, Jason Leffler, Jason Keller, and Dario Franchitti, the top 4 cars in happy hour at Memphis. How about that?
That test must have gone well when you went out there and showed them how to do it, Rusty.
Yeah, we did a lot of testing. They were down in Lakeland, Florida, testing out of Iowa, and it worked out good for them. Like Wes Ward is the crew chief for Stephen this week out there at Memphis, so we're looking forward to that.
Man, that is a crystal clear picture on that Sharp Aquos TV, I must say. That looks good. And watching David there, man, he's been doing a great job lately, learning a lot. This is looks like his car is not doing exactly what he wants. This is a tough.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a handful with this thing.
That's a tough place. I mean, you know how it is, Rusty. When you got to sail it off in there. Bob Osborne told me, he just said, just go run it hard as you can. And, I mean, that's what all these crew chiefs are telling. It's hard when it won't handle right.
Carl, we were talking earlier. I was talking to some of the drivers that are saying how this is a scary place to qualify. What's your feelings on qualifying here?
I like it. It's not as scary as a place like Charlotte because the Goodyear tires that we have here seem like you can move a little bit more. So at least you get some warning before you spear the fence.
Returns to racing after a year off. And right now looks to sit on the outside pole for the 500.
Hey, Big Bertha. Big Bertha's on the pole. That's pretty
Last
cool.
car to go. LaPorte, Indiana's Tony Raines, who did not run the 500 last year. Terry Labonte was in this car for Hall of Fame Racing, the Texas Instruments DLP number 96.
Mike, this was another one of those teams that a year ago, even as a brand new team, they pushed the envelope a little too far. Their qualifying time was disallowed for a carburetor infraction. So that was 2 qualifying times a year ago. Jimmie Johnson in the 48, the 96 car, which had Terry Labonte in it, where their time was disallowed after post-qualifying inspection.
And it was a tall order for Tony Raines to come into this car essentially mid-season. He was signed before the season started, but they used Terry Labonte to get their feet on the ground and get this team some experience before Raines took over the seat. Now he's ready to go for the full season.
And the business side of it, Terry Labonte had that past championship provisional that gave this team a little bit of cushion in those first 5 or 6 races.
Wonder what Terry's doing right now.
Maybe he's watching qualifying on Fox. What do you think?
He might be watching very closely.
No, he was watching the Bud Shootout last night.
Yeah, he was. We know that, don't we?
Tony's first lap, 49.67. This team is a lot like a satellite Joe Gibbs team. They get their engines from Joe Gibbs Racing, a lot of technology. Second lap, 49.15. Now the Yates father and son, David Gilliland, they can breathe now.
8th Daytona 500 row for this pair, for Robert and Doug Yates.
So soft with the front springs. The shock package in the front roll bar, the front sway bar can play a big role in it.
Shocks are 90% of it.
And Joe's a good road course racer.
Yeah, no, Joe gets around the road course excellent.
So does this guy, Ron Fellows.
Did you see what he was doing now? He's getting heat in his tires, but he's not going to get on the gas until he has to save those tires just a little bit.
Tremendous road course resume for Ron Fellows.
As long as you can get through here. Because I think that's important, getting through turn 11, coming for the green.
Has 14 career Nextel Cup Series starts. Sunday will be his 15th.
And I think all of them are at road courses except one start at Loudon, New Hampshire at one point.
He was second at Watkins Glen back in 2004. Terry Labonte drove this car to a 3rd place finish last year here in Sonoma.
But you know, our guys talked to Ron a while ago, and he's in a position that he has not been in a long time. Normally they bring him here, a team will bring him here to try to get the car qualified. This car's locked into the show.
But you know he really wants that good starting spot. A cup win to him would mean so much.
Oh, absolutely, because he's won in the Truck Series, he's won in the Busch Series, just like you said. Car has a nice look about it, Wally.
Looks good. I think he's going to have a good race car on Sunday.
6th in practice earlier today. Here's your turn, Wally.
Look pretty good.
Yeah.
You know we're all going to be watching that in Wally's world, don't you? So you getting through there.
I'll show you how not to do it.
This is going to be a great run for Ron. No, he's going to end up 8th quickest in this 96 car.
He's going to be excited, isn't he?
Reed Sorensen is our special guest here out of the Chip Ganassi Felix Sabata's team, and his teammate David Stremme on the clocks.
This will be a good indication of what my car is going to be like, because David and I were right next to each other in practice, so I'm not sure what they've changed on their car, but this will be a good indication of what we have.
And really, it looks like you and David, the lap time's like identical. You ran a 31:25, and he's 31:26, so this has got to be an advantage for him going out now, for you.
I hope so.
To get some information.
When I get out of here, I'll find out what he said about his car, and we most likely will definitely adjust our car off of his with a little bit of tire pressure there. But, you know, he ran a 31:68 there. Doesn't give me too much encouragement going into my lap, but he might be really loose or something right now. We might be able to get our car a lot better than his before we go out.
Looks like he got down in the corner real good, but he had some problems maybe through the middle of 1 and 2. He went up a little higher on the racetrack. Big wiggle here.
Yeah, that's not good.
He's still wrecking.
Well, he just drops. You see the tracker, the lap tracker, just drops off the scene. And David Stremme, who had his best start at Las Vegas on a 1.5-mile track there, struggles on his second lap. The first lap's the one we'll take. He's 7th overall at a 31.685.
That was a good save there. I mean, we didn't get to see the first part of it there, but obviously he got loose and didn't hit the wall. So tried to get a little more out of it. You know, in that second lap, it's hard to ask that much out of the car and the tire, I think.
Let's take another look at this. Come get the corner. The rear end's way out of it going at the corner. Big time loose on entry. And, man, he did a great job saving that thing, Reed.
Did a great job. I mean, if you can have a big wiggle like that and no damage when you're done, then the crew's usually happy with you.
First feel like that drivers and crew chiefs are not on the same page. Crew chief Pat Tryson, Roush Fenway Racing, parted ways this past week. Chris Andrews, the engineer, will look after the 16 car this week. Starting next week, probably even Sunday night, Greg Irwin from Robbie Gordon Motorsports will look after Greg Biffle in the 16 car as crew chief.
All right. Elliott Sadler.
Here's the man of the hour.
Quick in practice. And let's see what the number 19 Dodge Fantasticar.
Up the hill a little bit. Had to lay out the gas a little bit longer than I know he'd like to right there. Didn't hurt him too bad.
Looks pretty solid right now.
This is a money turn here, boys.
He's
Drop her down in there. That left tire down on that white line and let her eat. Mat that throttle and bring her home.
Oh, he's going to be in good shape for right now.
Or so.
Oh, I think so.
P1.
29-18. He beats Denny Hamlin by over 1/10 of a second.
But, Larry, I think we will continue to see these guys that were quick in practice. That time could go right on down into the 28s. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, no one wanted to see Michael Waltrip crash, but trust me, all these guys left to qualify loved the time that track had to cool down even more.
Of NASCAR NEXTEL Cup qualifying for the Bud Pole, along with Andy Petrie, Rusty Wallace, and our special guest, Carl Edwards. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. Here's the 7 car. Former pole sitter here, Robbie Gordon.
It's another car. Looks like he gets snookered into going low on the racetrack, and they hit that bump and bottom out.
It's like there's a bunch of grip right by the white line, but you don't know how much there is till you run it a couple times. And so you go down there, and it's like, don't grip and turn to the apron. And that looks like what had happened there. You can see his hands there come off the corner and just sawing, man. That's crazy.
Robbie Gordon's lap clocks in 15th quickest. Our Mike Massaro is caught up with Ryan Newman.
Sir, 10-4. This is probably the longest race, isn't it? Yep, 10-4, one of the longest.
Left to be decided, and here is one of them. Paul Menard.
You know, Mike, we talked about the guys really leaning on it last week at Talladega, the impound race, the guys that had to get in the show. And I think we actually saw that possibly with some engine failures with these guys, including Paul Menard, Ward Burton, David Ruderman late in the race. But like I talked to Chris Carey, Ward Burton's crew chief yesterday, he said, you know what? We had to lean on it, or we were going to be watching it from home.
Yeah, their performance is all engine related. If you can pick up a little horsepower, you can go fast. Here it's all chassis related, and you got to be really careful because you have to sit out there all night with the oil handling car. You don't want that. Not a very good first lap for Paul.
Got some work to do there.
The green line is Brian Vickers. If he doesn't get to the green line, he goes home. Let's put a line right there where Ward Burton is. If he gets to the left of that line, he locks in, and he will race tomorrow night.
He was there until he got off turn 4, 21.77.
And that goes home. So the Moen Fawcett's Menard Chevy. Actually, it moves to the bubble.
Yeah,
You're
it doesn't
right.
go home right yet.
I'm mistaken. It moves
Knocks
to the
Vickers
bubble.
out.
And
I think we got the senior Chevrolet where it'll drive well, and that's what we worked real hard on, and hopefully it'll pay off.
Thank you. Mike.
Ricky Rudd was fastest in both practices yesterday. He took the 2006 season off, not in retirement, but because he was somewhat burned out from the demands of having raced full-time since the age of 18 on this circuit. Now re-energized and ready to go, he is back at Robert Yates Racing and hoping to win the pole.
But right now, lap 1, he's over 2/10 off of his teammate David Gilliland. But if you see right here, it's starting to come back to him just a little bit.
And the number to watch will be the differential between his and the pole speed.
Now, one thing I've noticed, I've been watching these flags. It looks like the wind has picked up just a little bit, so we'll have to see where this ends up. His first lap was a 49.09. His teammate's first lap, David Gilliland, was a 48.85.
The pole sitter for the 1983 Daytona 500. Ricky Rudd trying to knock his young teammate off the pole.
We'll know here in just a few seconds. Ricky Rudd completes his qualifying run. 48.48. He is almost 2/10 off of his teammate, but he's second quickest. So right now, an all Yates front
quick,
run.
buddy. Second quick. Good job, man.
We've talked about it the entire show. I think the wind may have been the difference right there.
I think it's Big Bertha.
Find more cases so we can do more races.
Once I found out that car's name was Big Bertha, I knew everybody's in trouble.
Well, it's not over. But in 2000, Robert Yates Racing had both sides of the front row for the Daytona 500, and they may yet do it again.
Back at Kansas Speedway, Kenny Wallace, 4th consecutive week he is subbed for the injured Ricky Rudd, and Kenny clocking in 11th quickest. Guys, his second lap the quicker of the two, and the bad news is only one car he outran.
Jeff Green in the Best Buy Chevy, 5th fastest with a 15:39.
He's had some awesome runs here in the Busch cars. This is doesn't come as a big surprise to me. He always runs well here at Bristol.
Both the Haas cars, Jeff Green and Johnny Sauter, really good here at the test session 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he almost backs it up with a 15:41.
And he needs a good finish, Larry, because he is 35th in owner points coming into this race, right on the bubble of getting a qualifying exemption next week.
I hear that a lot from drivers about this track.
It's just fast, but it's kind of wavy. It's not like it's bumpy, but the car's just always moving around, so you're not really sure if you're tight, if you're loose, if you're wrecking, or if you're good. And it's just got to go by feel. So, like usual, go there, go down in the corner, close my eyes, hold my breath, and hopefully I come out the other side.
Keep your eyes open, all right? Good luck out there. That's A.J. Allmendinger, Doc.
He's the guy that Mark Martin a couple of weeks ago said is the real deal. So this young man has got a world of talent and is going to be awfully good once he gets comfortable here in Cup racing. Speaking of getting back in Cup racing, Jeremy Mayfield, Owensboro, Kentucky native, has not been at Atlanta since March of 2006. And he will drive the 66 car for the remainder of the season. And, of course, for 2008, will drive for the Haas Motorsports team in the 2008 Sprint Cup Series.
You know what? I was thinking about this tracker here. Watch Greg Biffle. It said he was a half a second slower than Kurt coming to the line, and he still beat him. I think that something, somehow.
I think we had a little glitch in that thing right there
coming off
about that time. And I think now that we've got Biffle on the pole, we've got a different reference lap to go from, and maybe it'll be a little more true to us.
And speaking of Biffle, let's talk to him. Mike Massaro is caught up with the current pole.
Way into the field, and there are 26 of them, hopeful of one of the 8 positions available to teams that were not in the top 35 in owner points last year. David Gilliland, the Cinderella story of 2006 and of last night's Budweiser shootout.
Now, we talked about Jeff Gordon's car up just a little bit in the nose, you know, maybe an attitude thing. They wanted to run it that way. Let's see what the attitude of this hot rod is, because this thing is fast.
From Chino, California, he's a second-generation racer as well.
It just looks fast. Looks like it comes off that corner really fast. Now, you see his valence. That's that little black thing down next to the track. That thing is pretty much sealed off. Little gap down there, quite a bit lower than what we saw on the Chevrolet of Jeff Gordon.
Darrell, his first lap is going to be, it looks like, possibly down in the 48-second bracket. Right now, David Reagan's lap was a 49.12. Now, he lost a little ground through 3 and 4, though, actually.
Yeah, but watch his hands on the steering wheel. You can see his gloves in there.
Robert Yates on the right, his son Doug on the left.
There it is, 48.85. So if he picks up just a half a second, he'll be at a 48.30.
No, he's going to be in the teens. Larry, I think he'll be in the teens. That's what the 88 car had run earlier. I think he may get there.
Now we talk about Robert Yates, the gentleman on the left with the headset. Doug Yates, that's Robert's son. That's who's really working hard making horsepower right now.
It's kind of a win-win for this crowd. I mean, the Yates cars are obviously powered by Yates engines, but so are the Roush cars, and you got one sitting there on the pole right now.
Just look right here. The RPM and the miles per hour hardly changes, just like we talk, wide open all the way around this racetrack, never lifting the throttle.
Yates has 7 front row starts at Daytona, and David Gilliland goes to the top of the chart by a quarter of a second.
He picked up 5.5 tenths.
Good job, man. 48.30. Good job.
Same thing you ran yesterday. Right at, I mean, just very close. So at least Rudd, he ran a 19 yesterday. We'll see if he can back his up.
Can Robert Yates Racing score its 5th Daytona 500 pole? Coming up, Derek Cope, Reed Sorensen, Casey Mears. Johnny Sauter in the Haas Automation Chevrolet. Got a little aggressive on the first lap, then he's locked into the show and timed in at 28.64, but where he had the problem off turn 4, that'll likely hurt both qualifying laps. He does get under 28 seconds, just barely. He's 21st.
Yeah, that killed his second lap because he just couldn't get back to the throttle off turn 4, but Johnny's that guy that's sitting there on the bubble right now, 35th in owner points, and only has a 36-point cushion over that 21 car of Ken Schrader.
So he will start Sunday, but he will also need a good finish. Sauter failed to make the show at Bristol.
And we got half of one in with the yellow flags there at the end of happy hour, but practice there. But a good run for the guys. Hopefully it holds up. The track's going to continue to get better.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Dave Blaney in the Caterpillar Toyota. He's going to lock in here with anything better than 19th. This is way better.
No, he's looking really good. That car is sticking, baby.
Cat Camry comes to the line, hunting a top 5 start. Got it.
Oh, yeah. Sir.
29.37.
Oh, Blaney likes this joint. You know, he won his Busch race over here, and he likes his place.
And, Darrell, we talked about it earlier. All 7 Toyotas had to lock in on time. Right now, we already have 3 locked in. We talked about this in the practice session. I think that pretty much sums it up what he felt about that lap. But Toyota making a little change to the engine combination. Not the engine, but just camshafts, things like that. Giving them a little more bottom end to get them off the corner.
This qualifying session? I probably not, and I never was qualifying.
Just find out what you run when you get to the garage area.
It's the biggest distraction, I mean, for me when I was on my lap was if somebody came in for whatever reason right through my lap, you have that second where you kind of stop and react, and you don't want to do that. So
it's taped up to the helmet.
What's that, Matt?
He's got the radio cord, Bill. It's taped up to the helmet.
Yeah, that's what we actually saw. So he will not be hooked up, evidently.
Kyle's on a pretty good lap right here.
He wasn't that bad in practice. Some of the guys at the end came out and bumped it back a little bit. But even late in the session, he was in the top 15.
And Kyle is a good road course driver. I mean, I don't think many people give him credit for it, but he does get around a road course pretty good.
16 races here. He's completed all but 2 laps. Had the win at Watkins Glen. Has made 50 road course starts. And this will be his 799th Cup start.
So that means if all plans go into place at the Brickyard 400, he will make his 800th start.
How about that?
Pretty fitting place to make an 800th start. But you know, Wally, we talk about Kyle a lot. You almost have to believe road racing and then add the car tomorrow into it fits his driving style. He eases the car in the corner, knows you beat people and you run fast from the center off.
Yeah, you're right. It may come right to him. I think he had a little bit of a problem there in turn 11. It didn't seem like he got after the gas the way he wanted to, but he's going to fall into 11th place. Good lap.
Outstanding lap for Kyle Petty, and he'll be on the radio with us all afternoon on Sunday. Qualifying continues from Sonoma.